No matter what you might think, finding clients in B2B is not hard. If you spend a lot of time doing sales prospecting, or if you decide to spend a lot of money on ads, you will be able to generate leads. What's really difficult is to make all your unit economics work. Essentially, your customer acquisition cost needs to be as low as possible so you can maximize your margins and invest more to grow your business. For example, let's say that you spend $400 to acquire one customer that will pay you $500. It means that your margin is $100. And with that $100, you won't be able to acquire another customer since your customer acquisition cost is $400. But now, let's say that you manage to reduce your customer acquisition cost to $100. It means that your margin is now $400. So technically, you could acquire a lot more customers faster now. So how exactly do you decrease your customer acquisition cost? Well, that's where sales funnels come into play. A good sales funnel can 10x your return on investment with the exact same initial effort. To illustrate it, just think of a chef using a funnel to fill small bottles with sauce. Without the funnel, pouring the sauce directly from a large pot would be inefficient, with much of it spilling and going to waste, similar to broad, unfocused efforts. But by using the funnel, the same amount of sauce is directed precisely into bottles, ensuring minimal waste and maximum efficiency. And the reason we look at the funnel before acquiring customers is because we don't want to waste our effort. With a good sales funnel, you will generate more revenue with a similar effort. And with a good sales funnel, your customer acquisition cost will be lower, which means that your margin will be higher. And when you have higher margins, it means that you can spend more money on customer acquisition and therefore generate more revenue. If you're new to sales funnels, it's essentially a series of steps your prospect will go through from the discovery phase to the closing phase. Let's take a simple example from a launch we did recently. So here's a LinkedIn post from Tal with a clear call to action. From that CTA, people will visit our website, which is optimized for conversion. Then we will measure how many new accounts are created through the duplication of any templates. And from there, we will know the amount of paid customers. Obviously, that works if you manage to create a really strong sales service and product-led growth motion like we did at Lemlist. Because without a real funnel that is optimized, it would look pretty much like this. As you can see on this LinkedIn post, there is no real value. It's very salesy and self-centered. The call to action is simply shoot me a message, but there's zero engagement. So you probably had only a few people watching that post. But in the end, I highly doubt that there's going to be any deal closed from that single post. And that's because the whole funnel is extremely weak. There are 3 keys to creating a good sales funnel. Number 1, you want the funnel to be smooth. I've seen people adding calendar links in their funnel where you can only book 3 weeks from now. That's not smooth nor fast. Second, you want your funnel to allow you to qualify people. Time is your most precious asset. Don't waste yours and don't waste your prospects' time. If they're not a fit, that should be clear in the funnel. For example, if you have something saying our pricing starts at $10,000 per month, is it a budget you're comfortable with? You know that every single person who is not in that target of price will not continue. And number 3, you want your funnel to be as fast as possible. It's either a yes or a no, but you should know as quickly as possible. Sales velocity is extremely important as it will determine whether or not you can grow fast. So now you're probably wondering if all sales funnels are the same. Well, your funnel will depend on the price of what you're selling. Most often, if the price point is above $1,000, you will have to go through a closing call unless you have a really strong brand. And it will usually look like something like this. At first, you need to generate demand. And that usually comes with cold emails or sales prospecting, a post on LinkedIn, or a newsletter. Then you have a conversion page where the goal is to push towards a meeting. And from the meeting, this is where you'll need to close deals. Something that most people forget is that each step of the funnel is supposed to sell the next step. On your conversion page, you should always sell the call, not the final product or service. If your funnel is to sell a product or service that is less than $400, your funnel should be a bit different, where this time your goal is going to be to close leads on autopilot without having to do sales calls, exactly as I showed in the first example. Overall, if you want to build efficient B2B funnels, you need to remember that sales is about one thing: trust. Let me explain. If I tell you that if you give me $10 today, I'll give you $100 back in a week, would you do it? I guess the answer is yes. Because if you've been watching my videos and have followed me for a while, you already trust me, because you know that I'll be able to deliver on my promise. But if it's a random person in the street, would you say yes now? Probably not, because you don't trust them. And even though I know that everyone loves to overcomplicate business, B2B is all about trust. Trusting someone to deliver a product or service that will either help you make more money or save time. Your entire sales funnel's goal is to build that trust. So before I give you another secret gift, I want to go through one very specific example of funnels we use to generate revenue for Lemcal. The first step is to generate demand through a cold email. Essentially here, I want to focus on a pain point that is relevant to my target. And the biggest pain point we wanted to solve with Lemcal was what we call the no-show rate. That's when people book a meeting on your Calendly and never show up. So we took a list of people using Calendly and we started cold emailing them. As you can see, the subject line is very intriguing and focusing on the pain points because it says reduce no-show rates, ? Then I add social proof in the first line mentioning someone who's well known in the industry. For example, here I'm mentioning Beck, who was the former head of sales at Chorus. Then I explain why we did it, which will add even more social proof if they Google my name, which honestly, they probably will. Because whenever you're receiving a cold email from someone you don't know, the first thing you say if they're saying something intriguing is to check who they are, what they've done, and whether or not it's the case. And finally, my call to action was straight to the point. It might make sense to chat about that for 15 minutes next week. I would also add a few follow-ups to make sure to maximize my reply rate, and I'll give you access to the full campaign so you can duplicate it for free. All of that led to this kind of replies. I would then send a link to that page, leading to qualified meeting and more sales overall. As always, I've prepared a free Notion doc that you can steal with tons of different funnels templates, including how we made $100,000 in 1 hour with a webinar, how we generate thousands of signups every time we launch a new feature, and how our sales team book calls on Autopilot. Every week, I'll publish new videos on how to build and grow a B2B business that generates millions of dollars without any BS and giving you practical templates that you can steal. See you on the other side. Peace, love, and profit.